Okay, let's unpack this. Some places on Earth are just, well, ridiculously big, areas so vast they kind of stretch the imagination.
Yeah,
You brought us this fascinating list today. It outlines the top 10 largest countries in the world by total area.
absolutely. And understanding the sheer scale of geography is pretty fundamental, isn't it?
It really is.
We often focus on population, maybe economic size, but the actual physical footprint of a nation, that tells a completely different story.
It really does. So our mission for this deep dive, diving into the material you shared, is basically to walk through this top 10 list.
Okay.
We want to pull out the key facts, look at those enormous numbers that define their size, and maybe zero in on the unique geographic details this list highlights for each one. Ready to see what the data tells us?
Ready. Let's jump right in. Where do we start? Number one.
All right, number one. According to the list you provided, this country isn't just large, it's by far the largest country on the planet.
I would have to be Russia. And the number is just staggering. 17,098,242 square kilometers.
Wow.
Or 6,601,668 square miles. When you actually see that number next to everything else, that by far really sinks in. It just dwarfs the competition.
It absolutely does. The difference is immense. Okay, so coming in at number two.
That's Canada, clocking in at 9,984,670 square kilometers.
Yeah.
That's 3,855,100 square miles.
Still huge.
Oh, definitely. The list notes it's the second largest globally, which also, importantly, makes it the largest country here in the Americas.
And there's a detail about Canada in the source that really makes you think about its geography beyond just, the landmass, isn't there?
Yes, exactly. It highlights Canada as the country with the most water area in the world.
Most water.
A remarkable 8.93% of its total size is water, according to the list. It's a huge amount of lakes, rivers, internal waters spread across that vast northern landscape.
Wow. Almost 9% is water. That really paints a picture of a very different kind of large country compared to, say, one that's mostly solid land or desert.
For sure.
Okay, sliding into the third spot on the list.
That's China, listed with a total area of 9,706,961 square kilometers, or 3,747,879 square miles. This makes it the third largest overall and significantly the largest country across all of Asia.
Right, and this is where we see the scale start to get incredibly close at the top because number four is...
The United States, its area is given as 9,629,091 square kilometers. That's 3,717,813 square miles.
So close.
Yeah, the list specifically points out how incredibly close it is in size to China. Barely any difference at this kind of scale.
It's fascinating how tight that is. Less than, 80,000 square kilometers separate them, which on a map of the world feels like almost nothing given their total size.
Exactly, a rounding error almost.
All right, moving down the list then to number five.
Number five, that's Brazil, listed at 8,514,877 square kilometers, which is 3,287,612 square miles.
Okay.
Now, not only is it the fifth largest globally, but source also points out it's the largest country in South America, and actually the largest in the entire Southern Hemisphere.
Largest in the Southern Hemisphere, right. And within that enormous area, Brazil holds a geographic feature mentioned in the list that's, globally famous for its sheer scale.
Indeed. It's home to the Amazon River. The list references it, winding through that massive Brazilian territory. The scale of the river really matches the scale of the country.
Absolutely. Okay, at number six on the list
we find Australia. Its size is 7,692,024 square kilometers, or 2,969,907 square miles. This puts it at sixth largest globally and the largest country in Oceania.
Right, Oceania is giant. And Australia also has a couple of geographical distinctions mentioned that really set it apart from the others on this list.
Right. The list notes it's the largest country without land borders. Being an island continent naturally gives it that unique status.
Makes sense.
And it's also highlighted as having one of the longest coastlines in the world, which, again, makes sense when you think about that island shape.
Yeah, that must really shape its geography and maybe even its character compared to countries like Russia or China that share borders with so many other nations.
Definitely a unique position.
Now, looking at the numbers again, there's a pretty noticeable shift after the top six, isn't there? The size seems to drop off quite a bit.
There really is. Yeah, the areas drop significantly as we move further down the list. Case in point, number seven.
India, with the size listed as 3,166,414 square kilometers, or 1,222,559 square miles. And the list makes a pretty stark comparison here, noting that India is less than half the size of Australia.
Less than half. Yeah, after hearing those massive numbers for the top 6 that jump down to India's size really um, recalibrates your sense of scale on this list.
It really does. Okay, down to number 8.
Argentina. Our list provides its size as 2,780,400 square kilometers,
Yeah.
which is 1,073,500 square miles.
Okay, Argentina. And this brings us to another pair that are very, very close in size, because right after it, at number 9, we have
Kazakhstan. Its size is given as 2,724,900 square kilometers, or 1,052,100 square miles. The list notes it's just slightly smaller than Argentina.
so close. Again, like China and the US on a global map, that difference is pretty minimal visually.
Very close indeed.
Finally, rounding out this top 10 at number 10.
Algeria. Listed at 2,381,741 square kilometers. That's 919,595 square miles.
Still a very large country.
Oh, absolutely. And it's highlighted as the 10th largest globally and, importantly, holds the title of the largest country across the continent of Africa.
Right, the largest in Africa. So looking at this full top 10 now, you've got Russia way, way out ahead. Then a cluster of very large countries, Canada, China, US, Brazil, Australia. Then that significant drop after Australia down to India, and then a tighter grouping towards the bottom with Argentina, Kazakhstan, and Algeria.
Exactly. And as the list highlights, these massive countries often dominate their respective regions, just in terms of sheer physical size.
Yeah.
You mentioned Canada, the Americas, China, and Asia.
Yeah, Brazil taking South America and the Southern Hemisphere, Australia and Oceania, and Algeria, they're in Africa.
What's fascinating is seeing how that scale translates regionally and pausing on some of those comparisons, like realizing India is less than half the size of Australia,
Right.
or just how much bigger Russia is than even number 2 Canada. It truly changes how you visualize these places on a map and the incredible diversity of what large actually means geographically.
It definitely puts things in perspective. It really does.
Exactly.
So reflecting on this list then, these numbers and the geographical notes tucked within it, it really does shift your perspective on global geography and scale, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Thinking about the sheer logistical challenge of connecting, governing, or even just traveling across areas that's immense is, well, it's mind-boggling. You brought this list to us, and it got us thinking about those specific geographical details mentioned, like, Canada's significant water area, or Australia being an island continent with no land borders and that huge coastline.
Right. Or Brazil's Amazon River.
Exactly. So this raises kind of an interesting question, maybe a final thought for you, the listener. Consider how these specific features highlighted right there in the list, whether it's vast internal water networks or being completely surrounded by ocean, having no land neighbors, or hosting a massive river system.
How did those things shape these enormous countries, beyond just the square kilometer?
Precisely. How might that influence everything from their climate, their ecosystems, to maybe how their populations are distributed, or even how they interact with the rest of the world? How do these unique geographical characteristics impact what it means to be a country of that scale, beyond just the number itself? Something to ponder, perhaps, as you look at that world map.